In his budget proposal delivered Monday, Finance Minister Rendaba Haulait, who's also the Vice President, allocated a recurrent budget of 11.8 billion pula to the Ministry of Child Welfare and Basic Education, an increase of 1.3% when compared to the 25-26 budget allocations. Now, critical questions remain as to how these allocated funds can have an impact in building a sound, result-driven education system. Let's talk more about this. Education specialist Thobo Khathola joins me in the studio. A very good morning to you. Thank you so much for being with us on BTV News. First, let's get your perspective of the allocation to the Ministry of Education in its totality, both ministries. Yeah. What is your take?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on your program. So it's always good as a nation for us to, put money into education, because this is us investing in the future. So my take is a positive one. It's good that education has been allocated the third biggest chunk of the monies. But it's now, where is it going to be used, that we really need to dissect and talk about.
Before we get there, when we look at the past few years, where would we say education, I know it's they've separated them now, but where would we say education was in terms of budget allocation, and was it what it should have been?
Yeah, well, our education seems to still be lagging behind. We saw the recent release of the JC results that unfortunately a huge number of students won't be able to move through to senior school. Same also with Form 5s. The IGCSE results came out, but we are obviously more concerned about BGCSE because that is the one that has the most enrollment of public schools. Yeah. And you'll see that even though we might declare that the pass rate is high, the main measure that we need to look at is university admission. How many percentage of students are going to be able to go into university institutions of higher learning? That can be a good measure to see how we are faring in terms of the education system.
Right. Okay. You are not particularly you don't have particular issues with the amounts, but you are talking implementation. Implementation has always been an issue for us, and it is a challenge. How do you think whatever it is that has been allocated must be implemented, and where are the, in this day and age when we are talking about financial constraints, what should be done with regards to the budget allocated and what we need to do in the education sector? Yeah,
Reggie, I think the main thing we need to look at is also infrastructure. But the main thing is infrastructure. I know that we do have a lot of good programs that the ministry comes up with, the STEM projects, the STEAM projects, digitizing, etc. But there are still some schools, remote schools, where infrastructure is still a problem, which limits the amount of learning or the comfort of learning of students. If students are learning in a classroom which is dilapidated, there's no stationery, there are no textbooks, how do we even expect to have a conversation of AI and the fourth industrial revolution when the classroom itself is not in a good condition? Or sometimes even students are forced to go and learn outside under the trees. Things that we've seen 20, 30 years back, even up to today. The schools in Gaborone, if you drive past the primary schools, you can see some of the students are learning under the tree. Then you wonder what a student who's in a very remote part of the country, where are they learning? Are the facilities up to standard? And hopefully we'll see that, we've seen that the TVET, students, apparently there will be a program where they are able to come and maintain the schools. So hopefully that partnership will...
Before we get to TVET and what they would be doing, but also you were talking infrastructure, not necessarily maintenance per se. Yes. So you believe that infrastructure is what is key at this point in time? We should ensure that every child is able to access housed classroom, as well as before even we get to issues of what they are going to be using in there.
Yeah, the basics. I mean, just the simple desk, chair, that comfortable desk, comfortable chair that a student can use. We've actually been privileged as Lion Tutoring, the company that I own. We've been tutoring students in other, public schools, and would see where students would need to write on their laps. imagine doing that long enough can have an impact on your back, you know. So some of these things, you know, and me being an advocate of digitization and fourth industrial revolution, I think people might be confused to say they would expect me to talk more about, you know, let's buy the computers, let's put in the internet, but you put the internet in a school that the students don't even have desks or chairs, you know. Yeah. So I think hopefully that will be the case. And I even studied at the previous SONA by the president, and it does look that they're trying to even build more schools. I think there were 11 schools that were mentioned that will be under construction. Hopefully they will try to alleviate, you know, the already existing schools, because we have high student to teacher ratios as high as 40:1, 50:1. But hopefully with this new construction of schools, we can get that ratio lower.
You mentioned the issue of tertiary education. Let's focus on that. With regards to tertiary education, and I know they have a multitude of their own problems, where do you think, mind you, in this era when we still are financially constrained, where do you think we should concentrate? What should we concentrate on?
Yeah, we need to look at your private partnerships, you know, with the government. You know, we do have tertiary institutions which are government-led or government-initiated, but there's a lot of uprolls of these new universities. You know, your just to mention them by name, you know, your BACs, your Buang. Well, Buang is government, your IDMs, you know, those institutions, I feel they could also allow your Baisaho, you know, Vocational College. There are some institutions that can allow students who didn't get as much high cutoff point as your UB. So you'd find that your UB would have a slightly higher cutoff point, but a student can still be able to go and do pharmaceuticals at Vocational College, or they can still be able to do a AAT, you know, degree, you know, at your BAC. So I think the partnerships between the government should really, you know, we should really encourage that, because that way we can absorb more students into tertiary education. And the TVET also,
yes,
I think
before you get into that one, we will move into that one. But when you say partnerships, what exactly partnerships are you talking about? Because right now we know the universities are there, government sends students, they pays for the students there. What partnerships are you looking at?
No, this is similar partnerships like that, but even not to overlook the new entrants into the market, because you have the ones that are already existing, your IDMs and your Baisaho. They've already been having students sponsored by DTEF to go there, but let's also look at the other institutions that are coming into the market that can help us to enroll more students. But even the cutoff point, I mean, right now your 36 points, cutoff point for the TEF, I think it can also be revised to see if we can get a little bit more students into the tertiary education space.
But I think that's what the budget speech was saying, that especially with higher education, they are looking at the increase in the number of students who are going to be accessing. Yes,
absolutely.
With vocational training, there is a new approach that government wants to take with regards to vocational training. What needs to be done? And is government on the right track in thinking, okay, this is where we should be going?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Government is on the right track, and being privileged enough to do business also in South Africa, I've seen that your TVET colleges, your FET colleges, they're able to absorb a lot of, people who are able to do skills that can put food on the table, If you are not able to do electrical engineering, but you have a passion, yamotlakaso, an electrical passion, you can go to your TVET college and do, a degree, or you can be able to wire a house, you can be able to do bricklaying, you can be able to do plumbing. And once you've graduated from there, you can be marketable in the job market. You can literally even start your own business as a plumber, and we can engage you as a plumber, and you are able to make food for your children that particular day. So I think government is definitely on the right track, because not all students are able to get into university, but there's some that they do have a little bit of skill to use their hands. So I hope this will also help to reduce the high unemployment rate.
People have been talking about our curricula, and they've been saying, you know what, there is a lot that needs to be done, even before we talk about infrastructure and all the other issues or the new developments in the modern world. The issue of the issue has been coming up over and over again to say we are training people who are mismatched to what the industry, our industries want. Are we ever going to get to the point whereby we do that?
Yeah, no, there's a huge mismatch between what the industry demands and global industry, because remember, the people that are working and making money in Botswana are not just people who are physically in Botswana. Because of the fourth industrial revolution, you'll find some of these banks or institutions, or even ourselves as Lion Tutoring, we have a lot of employees who are in other countries, but they're able to work online. They're able to tutor students who are here. They're able to do administrative duties, accounts, finance duties in Nairobi, in Cape Town, in Johannesburg. So those are kind of what we need to really upskill and look at the curriculum for it to match the global standard. Let's not just look at Botswana standard. Look at the global standard to say, if a syllabus is going to take 5 to 10 years to be updated, of which the international syllabi are updated on a 2 to 3 year basis, and we now, disadvantaging our labor force. And labor force starts from primary school, secondary school, all the way until tertiary education. So I think that is where the mismatch is. Our HRDCs need to also really update the Ministry of Basic Education, Ministry of Tertiary Education, to say these are the industry demands, and not just look at Botswana, look at what the global trends are, and also inform that on the syllabus changes and updates.
We've just had Minister Thobo Khathola on our news day, and talking about the issue of the Bula Buka program. When we look at basic education, and the needs and the numbers that we have of the students there, are we in a position to say, with programs like Bobula Bukajana, are we in a position to say they are the ones that will help us move to the point where we should be by having graduates from basic education who are, up to standard?
Yes, I think a good initiative, by the way, but I would still take it back to the ministry to say, let's engage more with your private schools, your public schools, because we are on the ground. We see what needs to take
How
place.
do you understand it?
Yes,
maybe?
So the biggest problem right now is the teacher-to-student ratio. So whichever interventions we may bring, if they do not address this issue, it becomes very difficult. So even if we can bring technology, if we can bring smart boards, those are all good initiatives. We support those initiatives. But another bigger underlying issue is your teacher-to-student ratio. 40 students, 1 teacher is really not practical. We need to get as low as your 30 or 20 learners as to 1 teacher. So I think that is where the mismatch is. The initiatives are coming, we appreciate them, they are well accepted, but let's also try to look at this problem so that we don't overburden. So imagine right now, just to give a scenario, a teacher will be able to teach a class of 40 students. They still have to set tests, they have to mark, as in some schools they even have to help with extracurricular activities. So that puts a lot of strain on one particular, or on the human capital of teachers. So I think we need to see onboarding of more teachers, and we've seen that in some instances where there are scribes, there are teaching assistants, but I would say the suggestion would be, let's try to see if we can bring more teachers to alleviate that.
It's something that I glanced on, that is going to be happening from the budget. But just quickly, because we've run out of time, we haven't said much about teacher satisfaction at work or their welfare. Are we fine?
Yes, well, teacher welfare, I think with most of the unions, we obviously get a sense of that. And I would appreciate if the ministry would hold hands with the union and find out, because the unions are the ones which know even better than myself, you know, the needs of the teachers in terms of whether is it salaries, whether is are they paid on time, you know, where they are living, the living conditions. But I hope in terms of, you know, the housing, this whole partnership with the TVET students, you know, it can really help at least with their housing to make sure they are comfortable. You know, they have good bath water, you know, those kind of, I think that is what you are referring to as, you know, their welfare. So hopefully if there's an engagement between your labor unions, your teachers unions and the ministry, that can really help them in terms of their, but one thing I can tell you with being certain is, you know, the high student ratio that they probably